Okay, Bill Oberlin is going to talk about Korea, but I'd like to bring up a slide that he had. If I may. Please go ahead, Bill.
The slide actually was a draft of a proposal we put together for a doing business in Korea, or actually how business is done in Korea. And it raised some questions which are would have been part of the presentation. And I was just trying to use it as thought-provoking. However, listening to the discussions on Indonesia and Vietnam, I took a bunch of notes, and mainly to try to do some comparisons between Korea and what you've just heard. First of all, I first went to Korea about 30 years ago, so a lot of what I have seen in Korea is more of an evolution of the business culture. First, you got to remember, first of all, how many people have been to Korea? Raise your hand, please. Oh, many. Okay, I should just switch to questions right now. Anyway, as you know, we've got 28,000 U.S. troops there. It's an extremely important trading partner with the United States. There's a free trade agreement we call CORUS. I worked long and hard on that and getting it passed. And yes, I believe that there are probably some changes that need to be made in the free trade agreement, mainly in the area of implementation. But it should not be cast aside because of the fact that the Koreans have lots of things they would like to see change in it too. North Korea, similar to what you heard about Vietnam, even though it's on everybody's lips right now, when I was in Korea, we went through many cycles of I guess you could say, antagonism. Is it a point of discussion with your Korean friends or partners? Not really. If they bring it up, yes. If you bring it up, it would be probably a little extraordinary, so I would suggest you don't. You may have heard that you can think of Koreans as the Irish of Asia. They have a lot of similar type of traits. They're poets. They're very emotional. You'll find that out. You may find that out. Over 50% of the population is Christian. At night, when you're driving around, take a look off the highway, and you'll see a sea of crosses because there are thousands of churches, and every single one of them usually has a lit cross on top. I don't have a two. I'm lost. As far as resources are concerned, the usual resources are there: United States government, Foreign Commercial Service, American Chamber of Commerce. Almost every, for example, if you're looking for a law firm, you're looking for a consultant, you're looking for somebody who's already doing business in Korea and you would like to find out just what it's like, AMCHAM is a good reference. The Korean law firms all have the big ones, all have American partners. They don't practice law. They're really kind of business consultants, but they're an excellent resource. As far as dress is concerned, formal. Wear a coat and tie. I mean, in 30 years, it's very rare that I spent a lot of time super casual. And when you do go casual, make it resort casual. Ladies, same thing. Holidays, right now is a bad time to visit Korea because everybody is on vacation. End of July, August is not a good time to go. The rest of the time, except for Chuseok, their Thanksgiving, which usually is lunar calendar, comes up in about the September, early October time frame. That's another time where people take off. Other than that, it's just about wide open. The reference to overseas Koreans, or in that case, the overseas Vietnamese, that used to be the case, but it is no longer the case because we've gone from the original Kyoto, the Koreans that moved overseas in the 60s, for example. Now we're into first generation and second generation. There's very little stigma attached to that. And I can't read my writing. First question there, why is somebody frowning at my business card? Yes, first of all, make sure you have business cards. Even if you don't have them translated, make sure you have business cards, because like Japan and other locations, they expect it and they're going to give you one. If you do have it translated, and speaking of translators, make sure you have good translators. The very first time I went to Korea, I was making a presentation on a sale of Chinook helicopters to the Korean Army. And it had been translated by a translation company in Washington, D.C. As I got about halfway through it, all the officers started laughing. And I stopped and said, I'm sorry, what's so funny? It said, up there, it says the Korean for swash plate. And I said, well, what does it say? It says dinner plates in a stream. I said, how do you say in Korean swash plate? They said swash plate. You'll find that Koreans are taught English in middle school and high school. And even though they may not practice it, almost everybody has a modicum of English capability. Today, that's even more than a modicum. So you're going to find English spoken, and from a business point of view, you're really not going to have much trouble. But going back, if you believe that you need a translator, make sure you get a good translator. And bringing a translator from the United States, make sure you vet them first. The best thing to do is get somebody local. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. 2 points here. Back in the old days, you had to be extremely careful. Today, you have to be extremely careful also. But on the other hand, what you've seen in Korea is a lot of what we insist upon as American companies and Americans doing business overseas. The Koreans are doing and setting in place the same type of regulations. So I'm not saying don't worry about it, be conscious of it. If you have any questions, contact a lawyer. And as I said, the law firms in Korea have American expats that have been there for, many of them have been there for like 40 or 50 years. So they're very trustworthy. Yes. The second place, they may mention, you go out to dinner, and should you pay for it? In Korean custom, if they invite you to dinner, they're supposed to pay for it. However, from an American point of view, and especially the fact you're trying to establish a business or sell something or whatever, offer to pay for it. Be aware that it can be very, very expensive. If they say, let's go to a second place, that's normally what we would call, let's go karaoke. You may hear the terminology room salons. If you hear room salon, there's going to be women involved. Be aware of that. There's a lot of drinking. I won't say that Korea has a drinking problem, but they do consume a lot of alcohol, and you would be expected to do the same. However, the good news is they all are very conscious of health. So if you want to weigh out, which is not going to offend anybody, just say that I really can't drink very much because in my case I'm too old and I can't do it, or just come up with an excuse and it will be accepted. But I would still go along to the first place. Excuse me, the second place. We had dinner first. Second place. If you hear third place or fourth place, I would say you gotta leave. A lot takes place at night. Business takes place at night. Relationships are established at night. And as David said, for example, in negotiating, a good part of it is the interpersonal relationship that is developed between both sides. That does not mean that forget about writing a contract, because true, back in the old days, contracts and lawyers meant nothing, because it is a, it was a society that really, if you ever ended up in court, the relationship is gone forever, and you may be gone forever as far as that particular industry is concerned. That's no longer the case. Rule of law is much more important today than it was. But the contract still is based upon the relationship between both sides. Korean food, you can get excellent Korean food here in Honolulu. If you've never had it, go try it so you know what you're going to get into when you go there. Are they going to perhaps push your limit as far as what you're eating? Perhaps, but I don't expect. But if your food is moving, then they're pushing the limit.
Yes.
My rule was that I would never eat something that was trying to kill me at the same time.
Like fish.
My negotiator is a woman. Actually, we had on the F-15, no, on the 737 AEW AWACS program, our lead negotiator was a lady, and there was no problem whatsoever. And I'm sure that's still today. Is it a male-dominated society? Yes, it is. But women, we just had a lady president. The Minister of Foreign Affairs is a lady in Korea right now. You're going to find there's less of the macho element in Korea than what was there a long time ago. As far as the question that was in here about the newspaper, I think the answer there is go to the lawyer. Again, Korean lawyer. Because actually, from my own personal experience, we had that happen to us, the Boeing company, several times in Korea. And some of the law firms like Kim and Chung, they were able to take care of it for us because, surprisingly enough, there are a lot of laws now that are similar to what you find in the United States as far as slander, et cetera, et cetera. Now, contrary to what you'll find in Indonesia, the business about the last one where your counterpart nickname was John Wayne, actually we ran into a situation where the Korean negotiator, his nickname was the Duke, so I called him John Wayne. They will not, if they want to tell you no, they'll tell you no. And if they want to beat up on you, they will beat up on you. And verbally, too, especially if he's very accomplished in the English language. But at the end of at the end of the day, it's expected that when you walk out, you're friends. What goes on in the negotiating room goes on in the negotiating room. When you walk into it, remember a couple things. Their idea is that they're going to give you enough time to come to their position. So use time to your benefit. The second one is that, again, interpersonal relationships are very important. If they act like they're angry, don't get angry. In other words, play the game. And third, make sure that you don't walk in with your bottom line position, because part of the game is that they are going to extract something from you, and so that's a giveaway. So make sure you got a giveaway when you walk in a door. Gifts, that was brought up. For men, you can't really go wrong with anything related to golf, because they're golfing fanatics. And so golf is always a good one. But Hawaii is too. When I first went to Korea, it was extremely rare that anybody under the age of, I forget, about 35 was even permitted to have a passport. It all had to do with the loss of funds. Anyway, that's changed. They love to travel. And more than likely, when you go there, you're going to be talking to somebody who has been to Hawaii. So my point is, anything, a gift that you would give them related to Hawaii is always well received.